Hello, I'm Tracy Grimshaw. Welcome to A Current Affair. It's the greatest foreign sell-off we've ever encountered, defying all logic that any government could have given it the go-ahead. The worst part is every single one of us is paying for it, with energy prices that just keep rising. But Dick Smith says it's time to fight back.
I mean, I cannot believe that we could allow this to happen.
It's the great energy rip-off.
It's vital that we resolve this crisis.
Foreign-owned companies plundering so much Aussie gas, we don't have enough left for ourselves.
I don't think we've ever been let down in a greater way by our politicians.
Selling it off to Asia, paying virtually nothing in tax.
You know, we pay our taxes. We're citizens of Australia. Shouldn't we be looked after first?
An exploitation of the entire nation. It's driving your electricity bill sky high.
It almost leaves me speechless because I can't believe they're so dumb.
This would be funny if the consequences weren't so tragic.
But now the secrets to fighting back.
Because there are better deals out there, but they're hard to find.
From the Sydney senior who took on the energy companies and won.
They're not looking after their customers anymore. They're only looking at profits.
This story is going to make you mad. Really mad. It's a perfect storm of government blunders where the major winners are big multinationals and customers in Asia, while all of us pay higher power bills. Victorians use the most gas, so are feeling the most pain, but every person in every state, whether you're on gas or not, is copping it.
If that gas is expensive, that's going to push up electricity prices.
When you get your power bill and you go to open it up, what's it going to be now, you know?
Maria and Brian Morecambe have a big family with 6 kids. They live in Queensland and don't even have gas, but have watched their electricity bill jump.
So the last one we got is $100 dearer than the same quarter last year, when we've in fact actually used less power.
It's just phenomenal. The price of electricity can go up so much in such a short time.
They follow all the tips to save power, turning off lights after the kids.
We don't use heating, we don't use air conditioning because we just can't afford it. So.
But there's only so much energy you can save.
You can't house them without electricity. You just, you need the lights, you need the oven, you need the fridge, you need all that sort of stuff to get going.
Not far from their house, a new pipeline is being laid, part of Australia's ever-growing gas network.
Victoria, the world's biggest oil rig, has started offshore drilling.
Australia first found natural gas by accident. It was a byproduct of the oil discovered in Bass Strait in the 60s. It's been flowing cheaply ever since, followed by onshore gas discoveries in far-flung places like Moomba. These underground pipelines were built to deliver cheap gas from our remote fields into our capital cities. But now, for the first time, some of them are pumping in the other direction, straight to foreign buyers. Gas from Bass Strait is now flowing up through Victoria to Sydney. For the first time in 40 years, the Moomba to Sydney pipeline is running in reverse, sending Victorian gas all the way to Queensland for export. At Curtis Island, near Gladstone, 3 enormous plants were built side by side at a cost of $60 billion to convert the gas to liquid, or LNG, so it can be transported by ship to Asia.
I thought, wow, this is going to be fantastic for Australia, the money we're going to make.
The project created an economic boom in Queensland with thousands of construction jobs for Australians and foreign workers too.
Safety is certainly one of ConocoPhillips' core values.
The coal seam gas was extracted from Queensland's Surat Basin, gas that Australians would never need for their own use. But nobody realised when these plants were being built that the pipelines would be sucking in much more than coal seam gas and would leave the rest of the country running on empty.
It's absolutely outrageous.
Aviator and philanthropist Dick Smith is perhaps our greatest patriot.
And now I find out we're making bloody well virtually nothing and we don't have enough gas for ourselves. It's an absolute catastrophe.
Just one of these 3 plants can freeze and export as much gas as the entire eastern seaboard uses per year. But with no laws in place guaranteeing a portion of gas supply for domestic use, the energy companies are selling their product to the highest bidder. So instead of getting it cheap, Australian customers have to pay the global price, double what we're used to.
Imagine we own this gas, but we're selling it off cheap overseas. Basically, they're not paying any proper royalties on it, and we can't even get access to much of it. It is totally ridiculous.
Thank you. Last month, the Prime Minister called in the heads of our major gas companies for crisis talks in Canberra.
We face a crisis in the availability of gas.
Those running the LNG plants were there. European giant Shell, US multinational ConocoPhillips, as well as Australian companies Santos and Origin. The Prime Minister emerged talking tough.
Today, I'm taking national leadership to resolve this gas crisis.
The LNG bosses scurried for cover.
No, I have no comment to make at the present time. I suggest just wait till you hear from the Prime Minister.
Do we have a crisis? Look, I'd refer you to the statements you're going to hear from the Prime Minister.
I just think it's extraordinary, really, and I think it's scandalous.
Sally Stabbock is a 74-year-old pensioner. She lives in Victoria, so for most of her life had cheap gas direct from Bass Strait to keep her warm in winter. Now her bills are rising so fast, she's taking extraordinary measures.
You put on clothes, you turn the heater down. One of the best things I think that I've done is turn the gas hot water down.
Sally's not only worried about her own budget, but the job losses likely to flow on too. Some Australian manufacturers are now paying double or even triple what they used to, while their competitors in Asia can get Aussie gas cheaper than they can.
If people in Japan can purchase gas at a cheaper rate than where it's produced, there's a problem.
This has been a failure of governments, of the market, and it's made Australia into an international laughingstock.
Senator Nick Xenophon predicts the gas debacle will cause another jump in our electricity bills this year of 20 to 30%.
We face literally thousands and thousands of jobs being lost in this country in the next 2 years unless we tackle the price of gas and the price of power.
These large natural gas exporters have been sucking a lot of gas out of the East Coast.
Tony Wood is from the Grattan Institute and knows more about Australia's energy markets than most.
There are serious implications for electricity prices from what's happening in the gas market.
Climate change is forcing the closure of cheap coal-fired power stations like Victoria's Hazelwood last month. The now more expensive gas-fired electricity is filling the void. Coal generates cheap power and massive royalties. $3 billion just to the Queensland government this year. We asked Queensland's 3 LNG exporters how much they'll pay in tax or royalties this year. 2 didn't respond. A third said that's confidential. It's expected they'll pay some state royalties, but nothing in a federal tax imposed on gas production.
That we've got a tax that isn't even being paid. Now that can hardly be a good thing for Australians.
The resource taxation system for these gas projects is effectively broken. It means we won't see any tax for many years to come.
The petroleum resource rent tax, as it's known, was negotiated by Julia Gillard and Wayne Swan.
This is a robust profits-based tax.
Turns out it wasn't that robust because profits can be manipulated with simple accounting procedures.
These foreign multinationals are so astute, they did a deal with the government that was based on profit, and then they say, oh, we're never going to make a profit, so basically we don't get anything back out of it. It's absolutely outrageous.
Now, the gas companies say they can fix the crisis themselves if we just let them dig more wells.
Unbelievable, a river on fire.
New South Wales and Victoria have banned coal seam gas exploration or fracking due to environmental concerns.
The fracking just a kilometre away, methane coming up, and now the river is alight.
Some of these gas producers are masters of creating scarcity and in turn jacking up prices.
So where does this all leave us just trying to lower our power bills? Well, Tony Wood's advice is to get on the Energy Made Easy website, which is the only fair way to compare the best deals, or just get on the phone.
Consumers could save anywhere between $100 and $400 or $500 a year on their electricity bill just by contacting the retailer, finding out is there a better deal available to them.
Sydney retirees Norman and Philomena took on their electricity companies and won. Energy Australia added on sneaky additional fees for a paper bill and paying it at the post office.
Why should we be paying for something that we don't believe is a valid charge?
They spent their careers dealing with invoices and believe the fees are a violation of the Goods and Services Act. After taking it to the local paper, Energy Australia refunded the fees. Now Norm wants it done for every customer.
We should be looking after our pensioners. We should not be ripping them off. They can't afford computers. They can't afford internet.
That just leaves our Prime Minister to sort out the gas companies.
This requires political courage. It requires decisive action.
I really do think the government should step in and help out the people that have voted them in government and give us a bit of a go.
Prime Minister Turnbull will hold a second meeting with gas company heads in Canberra tomorrow. And for details on how to find the best energy deal for your family, just head to our website.